And welcome everybody, I'm Steve Kim for UCN Live, and once again we are couchside with the legend himself, Larry Merchant. Larry, this is just strictly coincidental as we're filming this. This is actually the 4th anniversary of Ortiz Mayweather, where if you were just 50 years younger, you would have kicked his ass. Larry, let's go back. The last time we sat in this seat, we were previewing Mayweather Pacquiao, May 2nd, at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. As you look back at that particular night, how big of a letdown was it for boxing?
It was the anticlimax of the century. Look, when you invite a lot of people to a party and they go away thinking, I didn't have a good time, it's going to be hard to get them to come back the next time you give a party.
Larry, you were actually there ringside. You got tickets. As you're watching this event, number one, what's going through your mind within the action that's taking place or the inaction in the ring? What was the mood of the audience?
There were a lot of fans there, I discovered, who were not fight fans per se. They were attracted to a huge, popular event. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of confused about it. Someone sitting next to me said, why is the bigger guy not trying to fight the smaller guy? And didn't get it. Whereas those inside the boxing world got more or less what we expected.
After that fight ended, did you say to yourself, we waited 5 long years for that?
No, I thought to myself, they pulled off a magnificent con. And somehow it got out into the ether and created this extraordinary worldwide pop culture event. And so you say, well, I get it. It's a business as well as a game. And they pulled it off.
Speaking of pulling it off, it was revealed shortly after the fight that Manny Pacquiao came into that particular event with the damaged shoulder that needed surgery. With that said, with everything that was on the line, including a lot of money and the expectation of boxing fans, are you disappointed, whether it was realistic or not, that Manny Pacquiao did not pull himself out of that particular date?
Yes. I covered Ali listening to a much anticipated event. It was postponed because Ali had a groin injury. I covered Ali Foreman, another much anticipated event. It was postponed because Foreman suffered a cut in sparring, in training. But when a fight has been anticipated for 4 or 5 years, I guess they were A, afraid of postponing it, and B, with so much money pouring into the event and the media having jumped into it, the mass media, all that money on the table, nobody was walking away from it.
Yeah, Larry, taking a look at the Andre Berto situation with Floyd Mayweather, he just fought last weekend. Pay-per-view numbers certainly declining. Some reports even below 500,000 buys. Do you think that that is a clear indication of a backlash over what took place May 2nd?
Yes. Why would you want to watch a fighter who prefers to box rather than to fight if you're not a pure fan of his? And yes, con me once, it's on you. Con me twice, it's on me.
Yeah.
And there was tremendous resistance, and many folks I met who didn't even know the fight was going on.
Larry, I find this interesting. You're still a guy that keeps up with the sport. This past weekend, you did not watch the Berto fight.
Well, you got to put your money where your mouth is.
Or don't put your money.
Well, that's the point. It's the old Yogi Berra-ism. If people don't want to come, you can't stop them.
Larry,
and I was among them.
Larry, he's at 49-0. Do you think he makes an attempt at 50-0?
Well, for the moment, I'm as pleased with his retirement as I'm sure he was pleased with mine. So I'll just take it from there. In general, my belief is that when athletes announce their retirements, they are very sincere about it. And when they announce that they're coming out of retirement,
They're very sincere. Yeah.
they're just as sincere. Looking back in recent history, the only two fighters I know of who have actually retired with big money still on the table that they could have made, Marvin Hagler,
Right.
after he lost to Sugar Ray Leonard, and Lennox Lewis after he
Klitschko.
beat Vitaly Klitschko. Both of them could have come back to big money fights, and they said they were walking away, and they did.
Yeah, my biggest fear for all of boxing is that we're going to do a sequel to Mayweather Pacquiao. I almost believe it's a fait accompli based on the business they did, but we could talk about that at another time. Larry, I know you were a very interested reader of Thomas Hauser's fine work last week for SB Nation, detailing the IV use of Floyd Mayweather, which is against a lot of rules and regulations. Do you find it ironic that the crusader that was Floyd Mayweather may have bent the rules as it relates to some of these rules in regards to drug testing?
Floyd Mayweather may have actually spoken out of both sides of his mouth, or 3 or 4 sides. Unthinkable. Look, my understanding is the IVs are used for 2 purposes. One is to rehydrate.
Yes.
Many fighters have to dehydrate in order to make weight, and then after a weigh-in, they try to rehydrate. The other is to mask illegal drugs. All I know for sure is Mayweather has never had trouble making the welterweight limit.
Yeah, and basically the tail wags the dog as it relates to USADA. On the other side of the coin, it took 2 not to tango on May 2nd, Manny Pacquiao. I've said this. It seems to me the lion's share of the blame for what didn't happen, which was a real fight on May 2nd, goes to Floyd Mayweather. But Floyd's going to be Floyd. Doesn't Manny Pacquiao deserve some of the blame for the stuff that didn't happen? I'll be honest, it didn't seem to me like he pressed the fight enough on his end.
I love Manny Pacquiao and everything he did in boxing and all the big events and living up to the expectation of those events so often for so long. But he let everyone down in this fight.
Larry, Manny Pacquiao, it's been said by Bob Arum that there's several names on the table. You know which ones: Crawford, Amir Khan, Kell Brook. Now looks like Lucas Matisse, and even a 5th chapter against Juan Manuel Marquez. If any of those fights comes to fruition in 2016, are you still interested in that particular career?
I'd have to say I'd want to see him if he fights a serious fighter, especially a serious young fighter. I can't say after all this time I'm interested in the 11th fight between him and Marquez.
Police Academy, I like to call it.
Although it's a great franchise. Personally, I'd like to see him fight Crawford, because I think Crawford is the best young fighter out there. And I'd like to see that fight, and whether Crawford can use that fight to become the star he's capable of being. The other 2 fights, Brook and Khan, probably would generate more money, because the Brits would stay up all night and all morning and all the next night and morning to wait for that fight. And as we saw, at this stage, particularly of a fighter's career, money matters first.
Okay, nightmare scenario. Mayweather, Pacquiao 2. Yeah. That's your official reaction right there.
If Pacquiao were to go out there and impressively win a couple of fights, against serious opponents, I would say, in the nature of the business of boxing, go for it. If they do half or a third as well as they did the first time, it would still make sense.
Yes. All right, well, that's it for part one with Larry Merchant. Couchside, we'll be back with more.